We should be live.
Hello.
Hello, hi.
Yes, it would help if I remember to click the button because I was sitting here watching the countdown going,
Something's missing, right?
yes. So, hello and welcome everybody to
Hello.
another episode of Bean Streaming with Not Quibus and Not Darko. And I do see because we've been doing too many formal streams that our name tags are not right, so I will immediately go fix mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'm Darko this time, and that's
Okay.
that's not Darko, I guess.
Okay, cool. There we go. Done. Yeah. Important, these little details. So, welcome. And what we are doing today is we are going to be having a longer chat about a CI/CD, what it is, what it isn't, and also then we are going to wrap it up with some things that we've done in the past that I know from my part I'm definitely not proud of, and I specifically have never blogged about this because it's not something you should do. But we will get
Yeah,
into that in a little
yeah.
bit. So,
So
how are
what
you,
is?
Doctor?
I'm pretty good. Today is Friday, so that's good. It's a relatively busy Friday, and maybe somebody is watching my presentation somewhere. And if you are, welcome to that presentation as well. I'm actually currently with the power of quantum physics or maybe just a recorded video. I'm not sure. I'm currently presenting at a conference on DevOps stage. It's a Ukrainian conference, so I'm talking about CI/CD for modern applications. And
Okay,
what a better
nice.
time than to use that same topic for today's main topic, right?
And also, I think before we dive into the actual topic, maybe
Yeah.
just give people a sneak peek into how we often appear to be like everywhere at the same time, and why you might see us like on multiple places in the same timestamps. Because currently, I do believe you are in two places at once.
I am currently at two places at once. One is a I'm just looking at it right now. It's in Ukraine apparently. So we do a lot of recordings. It's not just about us doing live things. Although I'm a bigger fan of doing things live because if I can see a chat pop up and answer the question from somebody, it's much better than just having to blatantly screen into a camera and yeah, hope for the best. So we do a lot of recordings when it comes to kind of third-party events and our own events. So we have a whole recording setup. I believe I've shared a few photos already on Twitter or somewhere how it all looks like, and it's I can have a messy room from just that. So let's call it that way.
Oh yeah,
But I guess you do the same thing, Kobus, right?
yeah,
You're
no,
not
definitely.
always
I've
live.
actually no. It's sometimes interesting because the expectation, especially with webinars, is that you are live, and then you get questions coming in, and then you get some really confused people where they're like, "How are you able to answer me while you're presenting?"
Yeah.
Which is fun. Which at least for me, that's a big compliment because it means that my session was good enough and entertaining and also like interactive enough to think that it's live instead of
Correct.
sitting over here and reading off my script where I go like this. Yeah,
Exactly.
cool.
So, and you will see like on some even big ticket events on AWS, we are, especially in these times, we are recording and we are there to answer the questions, or we have some folks that will help us answer your questions. So, and speaking of big ticket events, we have an upcoming.
Yes.
We need to keep shilling this because we want you all to join us at our Modern Application Development Dev Day coming this October 15th, which is in 6 days. So
Yes.
next Thursday
Yes.
on, well, I wouldn't say on where, but register. There's a link. I think Kobus shared a link.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you just paste that link as well in the chat if possible?
Yeah, what I'll do actually is I'll make it a little bit easier to get there. And no, don't worry, Doc, I'm not going to cheat here. Just in case for those that are wondering about the cheating, we've got a little bit of a friendly competition going, to put it mildly,
Yes.
about who can get the most people to sign up. So what I've done there is this is a link, and what you can see in there, if you do want to go dig into the UTM tracking code, is that this is specifically a not Quibus, not Darko link.
Yeah.
So let me put it over here.
So
Link
yeah.
to
Yeah.
hello Gunnar, hello Arcane and Dream Warfare.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome.
Welcome back to the streams.
Yeah.
We love to have you back. So yeah, do register to this link if you're interested in watching these two bald folks talk about some tech. We already had a little sneak peek about what are we going to talk about. Most things are going to be focused around modern application development. Kobus, you're doing okay. So let me phrase this: the not so sexy but very nicely presented topic about autoscaling and
Well,
purchase plan, not purchase plans. Not cost. How are they called? Like, how do you call the differences between on demand?
see, the thing there is, I decided to add in a lot of keywords and see if that would
Oh,
attract
okay.
people to the talk. Because in general, when I go cost optimization, people are like, meh, interesting, but not that interesting.
Yeah,
Although,
yeah.
interesting, side note, my talk for the AWS Online Summit that we had in EMEA
Okay.
was under the top 5 in terms of attendance.
There you go.
Yes, but I don't know if you ever saw it. You actually were the second most attended talk or second most watched talk.
Which
So
one?
that's
Mine?
a good one. Your CDK one, yeah, at the EMEA one, the EMEA
Oh,
Summit, yeah,
really? Oh,
yeah. I've got the
that's very. Yeah, that's very cool. I think was it the
yeah,
CDK one or the infrastructure as code? I know that I had a lot of viewers on my infrastructure as code one that I had like, and like that blew my mind. 9,000 people
yeah.
opted to watch this face talk about CloudFormation. Thank you
Let's have
all.
a look over
Thank
here.
you all. I appreciate all of that. But yeah, Kubus is doing this thing with where it comes to cost optimization with autoscaling groups and different purchase options such as spot instances, combining both on demand and spot and reserved instances as well. Can you do reserved as well? Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah. So
Although a little bit of a caveat, but you know what? Let's do an actual entire episode on that at some point
okay.
because
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Fair point. Fair point.
because I
But
want
that's
to dig into today's stuff.
Yeah, that's a very fun topic. I'm covering developer tools and I'm covering CDK a bit. So I have the pleasure to have two talks at this event. So pretty much happy about that. But today we're gonna try to have a bit of a more structured stream, which doesn't mean that you guys should not ask us questions. So feel free to pop the questions in the chat here. We would be very happy to keep on answering them as we go. But we kind of have a specific topic for today. I want to just mention a few things as it is coming to the end of the week. There's been a couple of big releases this week, and one big release in specific, which I want to mention. And this thing deserves a whole session for itself. Now, neither Cobus nor I are experts in serverless, right? We all dabble in serverless. We all, it's 2020. We all try to use serverless as much as we can, and because it's just better, right, for a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
So a new feature actually came out to Lambda called Lambda Extensions. Now, this is currently in preview, but it's a great way to integrate some things with Lambda, right? So, for example, Cobus, how do you monitor Lambda functions, right? How do you introduce
don't.
exactly? You hope that CloudWatch does it for you, but like if you want
Yeah.
to implement some third-party tooling like Datadog, like Dynatrace, or some of those things into a Lambda function, it's been problematic, especially when it comes to agent-based systems on Lambda function.
Yeah.
Now, what extensions allows us to do is actually to integrate this tooling into the actual execution of a Lambda function. So in essence, it creates this kind of a separate API endpoint, or like basically a Lambda function has a runtime API endpoint, the thing that runs the
Yep.
Lambda itself, right? And where you have a runtime process, your function, the thing that does it. But with the extension API now, with the extensions and the extension API being introduced, you have a separate extension running on top of that or underneath that.
Okay.
So that's a very interesting thing here that I find.
So, if I understand this correctly, that means that you can now make calls to a local API to do things, and things can be various different aspects, but it's always local to your Lambda.
Yeah, to an extent, right? So it's kind of like a built-in plugins for your Lambda function. So I'll give you a typical example. So and this is the example coming from the documentation itself. App config. I've spoken to about app config numerous times, right? So app config is a really nice service / feature that gives you the ability to deploy configuration items to your applications, right? And well, not deploy. That's a bad term. To request configuration items to your application, right? So your application, how it used to work, like, or how it works. Your application calls an API call to AWS app config to request configuration. and it receives a JSON blob back or something, or a string, whatever, right? It receives something, then based on that, you do something else, right? Which is fine. The problem is you're introducing some potential additional overhead on, hey, Edmund, hi, welcome to the stream. I haven't seen you in a long time to the stream. Edmund is our AWS Tirana user group leader. So hello, welcome.
Awesome.
So app config, basically you would call an API, return something like that. It would introduce some overhead on your Lambda function, basically because you need to make this API call from the Lambda function itself. You have to import the module for the SDK, bunch of things. At least so uneducated opinion coming in. Wait, where's my thing? I don't know a lot of things about this. It's a service in preview, so take everything we're saying with a grain of salt. When it comes to Lambda, what are they called? Extensions. It gives you the ability to set up an extension for app config. In essence, this extension is configured to automatically get those configurations straight from app config instead of having your Lambda function doing it. So you have like an integrated system of doing it.
This is So it's almost like being able to decorate methods with additional like aspect-oriented helper functions and what's the proper term? Decorators. Yes, there we go.
Yeah. But it's not just that. Like there's also like if we're gonna look like the biggest benefit of this, I think is gonna come from the partner integrations. For example, I'm just looking at the list right now. So we have a list of Lambda ready partners for extensions: AppDynamics, Datadog, Dynatrace, Epsagon, HashiCorp Vault, Lumigo, Checkpoint CloudGuard, New Relic, Thundra, Splunk, AppConfig, and CloudWatch Lambda Insight. So all of these things, like for example, you can, for example, HashiCorp Vault, that's all close to us, right? So with the extension for HashiCorp Vault, you can now authenticate and securely retrieve dynamic secrets before your Lambda function invokes. That's the thing. You don't you don't spend the time recovering those things during your Lambda function invocation, but you do it before that, which is really cool, right? So, like if you implement the Datadog extension, the Datadog extension basically just, it gives the ability to send telemetry or metrics from the Lambda function to Datadog. So pretty cool. I think that's a very neat service.
No, that's actually, I mean, from integration perspective, it kind of means like it's now invisible and just works and just happens behind the scenes. Wow. No, this is super powerful. I mean, this I want to go play with.
And I remember I was talking to the AppConfig folks a few months back, and they're like, "Oh, there's this amazing feature coming to Lambda, and it's gonna make AppConfig integration even better." So if you ever watch my YouTube video on AppConfig, there's a different way to do it now. So you can still do it the old way, but there's a better way to do it now. So refresh your knowledge, people.
Well, it sounds like there's a new YouTube video coming soon.
Maybe. I haven't done a proper YouTube video in weeks.
But I mean, it's reInvent season.
reInvent season, right? So there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess we can get. Edmund says, how does charging for Lambda extension work? So the pricing in itself is actually just the same thing. So according to the documentation page, extensions share the same billing model as Lambda functions. When using Lambda functions with extensions, you pay for requests served and the combined compute time used to run your code and all extensions. So, of course, if you jank up your Lambda function with a whole bunch of extensions and they take, seconds or minutes, we're saying seconds, but like tens of seconds to execute, you're gonna pay for that. So, but again, it doesn't have to combine with your Lambda function time as well. So that's how you do it.
Yeah, I mean I've actually seen that before. It's there was this. There was a comment somewhere online about someone that was saying that if you've got a service mesh with a total compute for your service mesh is more than your actual application you're building's workload, you're definitely doing something wrong.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Be careful on that. Cool. All right. So, cool. But again, this is in preview. It's not currently GA, so mind you, things may change as it goes along. So we need to put this little asterisk. This service is currently in preview. Everything we just said may change.
Yeah.
So be careful. But we haven't just said a lot, so that's good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. I guess we can slowly dig into the to the actual topic of today. I guess we can.
Yes.
We can talk about something that's close to both of our hearts.
Kikd.
Kikd.
Kikti.
Kikti. Cool. Just to answer a couple of questions here, or actually a question from Andre. Would these extensions be easy to integrate with pipelines? I see no reason why not, because these extensions are in essence Lambda layers.
Yeah.
So anything that can be done like that, but I have not played around with this too much to know that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
we'll have a separate session covering that as well. Because we wanna give this session this topic a lot more justice than just us attempting to read the launch blog post and commenting on that.
Yeah, no, we definitely want to play with it a bit more, at least get our hands dirty. So, CI/CD. Let's first... Kikta, yes, Kikta. Let's first define what it is, actually, in terms of what does the abbreviation stand for?
I got a book I'm going to read. I'm going to try to find the proper, if there's a definition to CI/CD. I picked up this book right now from my shelf just to see if there is a proper definition to CI/CD while you make an intro.
So I think the more controversial part of it will be the last letter. So the CI part is fairly well known, continuous integration. Now, what continuous integration means is that whenever you make a change to your software code, you immediately do a build in a centralized build server somewhere or distributed build system, and then also run at least some kind of tests against it to make sure that the code at least is syntax correct. Maybe you've got some linting in there to make sure that it's the right format. Then you might have some tests to make sure that, hey, it actually does what it is supposed to. And those tests can take many forms: unit tests, functional tests, integration tests, smoke tests, a whole bunch of things that you can test. And then ultimately, when you're done with it, you can create a build or deployment artifact if this is a branch that you want to deploy. So, for example, your main branch. So if this was a pull request, you'd only go up to the point where, and once again, this depends with a little asterisk a lot, because you might want to be able to deploy certain PR branches. Not everybody does. So, but you definitely want to be able to deploy your main branch. So that's the CI portion.
Correct.
Now for the CD portion, tell us about the continuous.
So there is two types of the Ds. So when we talk about continuous integration and continuous, the D part could be either deployment or delivery. Now, I always get this confused. So I may be saying this wrong. The delivery is the ultimate thing. It's the from start to the end, just works, right? So you commit your code, and your code goes to production.
Yes.
Deployment is almost that. There's only just a single human interaction, at one point where somebody says to say, "Hey, this code is good, ship it." Right? That's kind of a thing.
Not 100%. The difference for me, at least, and this is why we said this is going to be a contentious point, is that deployment means take code, put it somewhere, which is the final destination.
Okay.
Delivery is take code, put it somewhere, but said code might not yet be in use. Because the difference is that you get the code out there and you might need to actually then do something else like feature flags or enable it or do something else. And you are automatically then enabling that bit of code to do things as well. That's at least the way in my mind that I've kind of like understand the difference.
Okay. I was under the impression that the deployment, the delivery part is the deployment part, the one with the checks and balances before the actual push to production, was that somebody has to verify it. But okay, and this is DevOps, right?
Yeah.
No concrete examples, no concrete definitions for a lot of things. So it's a lot of but the goal is the same. The goal is that we have the ability to actually deploy our piece of code safely, successfully through something called a pipeline, right? Cool. All right. So, what's your first code CI/CD pipeline that you implemented, Cobus? Let's walk from a human perspective first. Ooh.
So, it's going to be a fun one. It might actually confuse a bunch of people if I said Hudson.
You just confused me. You just confused me.
It gives away my age. And I can guarantee you, Darko, that you have used Hudson. You just don't know it. And not because it's hidden underneath something else, because it's got a new name. Jenkins.
Oh, I remember now. Yeah.
Jenkins is the public open source fork of Hudson that came about when Oracle bought... I think Sun Microsystems, and part of Sun Microsystems' portfolio was Hudson. And even if to today, if you go dig into the Jenkins code base, you'll actually see a lot of packages and things still named with Hudson.
Right.
So that was my very first interaction with like a build server. But that wasn't doing any kind of deployment. We still had our own in-house deployment because on-prem, I mean, literally when I started coding, cloud wasn't around at all. So we built our own thing. So we actually had a very funky deployment system that would use Hudson to actually build the artifacts and create the jar file because it was a Java application, or well, multiple Java applications. We actually had a somewhat microservice thing running at that point, even though it wasn't called that. And that jar would then be uploaded to a specific location with SCP, and then we had some custom bash scripts that would SCP it onto the server in a pool fashion, do a MD5 hash on it to make sure that it's actually the integrity is there, it's the actual version that we shipped, etc. And that was my first exposure to CI/CD.
Interesting. Well, my first exposure to proper CI/CD, one that I set up myself, was a good times later than something that you did. I come from a very traditional company where our deployments were basically, hey, it's in a zip directory, zip archive on some file system somewhere, right? Which was horrible. So my first actual CI/CD pipeline that I built for a proper use case was, weirdly enough, a testing pipeline for Chef. So Chef, the configuration management tool. So I was testing Chef cookbooks in a pipeline before pushing them to production. So
nice.
This is where, like, for me, the versatility of a pipeline became to be. But so what is the goal of a pipeline, right? So why are, people are talking CI/CD a lot, and we say like, oh, well, that's DevOps, right? It's a tool or a set of tools in that help you in your DevOps practices. But the goal of a pipeline is to safely push code through multiple stages, so you can safely and securely and in a standardized way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important. That step.
Yeah, very important. Deploy your code to production, right? So in an ideal scenario, your developers will just do a git push, pull request. Somebody just reviews the code, and that code goes to production. That would be an ideal scenario. Now, with the versatility of pipelines, you can do a lot of things, right? So
and a lot of bad things.
Exactly. You will most likely see those 4 phases of software deployment, the software release, the commit, the commit, the build, the test, and the production, right? But again, that's a very simple pipeline. Pipelines can be very complicated. You can have multiple stages. You can have multiple testing environments. You can have multiple.
You can fan out into parallel.
Fan out, yeah, exactly. So those things, and it's also not just deploying applications. You can. I've seen people do things with what's the name of the tool from HashiCorp?
Terraform, Vagrant,
Packer.
There we go.
Packer.
Yes.
So Packer is a tool that people use to build images, AMIs on AWS. So they use CI/CD pipelines for those things as well. So that is.
I'm a big user of that.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I had. So just on that, I actually used Packer, like Darko mentioned, to build virtual machine images. It doesn't have to be AWS AMIs. I believe you can actually even use Packer to build Docker containers if you wanted to.
Okay.
With a config, it's a very nice, because what they did is that it's one big JSON file. So you define at the top what's your starting point, and then you define the builder, which also includes, for example, let's say you're building an AWS, what VPC, subnet, etc., and things to use, starting AMI, all of those things. And then it's got sections for the actual builder execution, where it says, okay, now I want to do things to this image, and then once I'm done, I want to package it. And those things can be things like copy files to it, set permissions on the files, run scripts, etc. So it means you've got full configuration options or control over what happens with AMI spun up. And where I use it a lot is that every single Sunday morning, I would bake a fresh AMI for which we call the golden image, which is literally grab the latest version of the OS that we were using, which is Ubuntu at that point. Take it, apt-get install, apt-get update, and then apt-get upgrade. So in other words, clean and install all the latest packages. And then once that was done, added a bit of like base configuration things for the services that we needed, that every single service need, and then snapshot that, boom, that's the new image for the week. And then from there, you take it to the next steps in the pipeline, which is deploy some code on it, check that it works, which meant that every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on which environment we're looking at, we had fresh servers spinning up that were patched. So if there was like a CVE, it was like it's already taken care of. Or, oh, there's a big one today. Click the build new image, roll it out.
So okay. Deploying software, testing infrastructure code, testing configuration management code, building images or AMIs, updating, well, you updated AMIs, building Docker images. So I would argue that the definition of CI/CD as a pipeline that pushes software from commit or from an early stage to production is bad, because it's not just that. A CI/CD pipeline does a lot more things. So how would we define a CI/CD pipeline when all of these things into context right now?
Ooh.
No.
Earthquake.
Quick, no, I just banged my desk.
Drop it like it's hot.
Drop it like it's hot. So how would you define a CI/CD pipeline now?
Nowadays, it's slightly more complex because you kind of have also the ability to get into a chicken and egg problem where I have infrastructure that defines I have code that defines my infrastructure that then is used to build my infrastructure and deploy my code. It's this little almost Pandora's box of how do I go about setting up the pipeline that runs the pipeline that also, creates the infrastructure for the pipeline. I've got one answer that I implemented 3-4 years ago in that, which was a way of doing it. But let's hear about your way first, and then I'll tell you about mine.
So my way on that. So here's the thing. Here's the place where I changed my mind. So Kobus and I were discussing this a long time ago, where we were discussing one of the applications we're building on this stream. How are we going to build the pipeline and everything else? Are we going to do it in the same thing? And I was like, you know what? We shouldn't do it in the same thing, because the pipeline is a separate thing. It's a chicken and egg problem where we have to deploy the pipeline with something else and then test that thing. Basically, my imagination back then was like, we need 2 stacks of code, one for building the pipeline, one for everything else, right? That's going to go through the pipeline. So one piece of code will never go through a pipeline. I was wrong, and I changed my mind because I've seen how CDK does it. So CDK has a module, and I think we talked about it once, is that CDK has a thing called CDK pipelines. And it's nothing special. It's nothing revolutionary. It's just a very easy way. It's a construct. It's a library that helps you deploy proper pipelines, CI/CD pipelines to AWS. Now, what it does, it's actually a pipeline that mutates itself. So it's a self-mutating pipeline. So the only thing you need to do, you need to deploy the code once through your command line. So I need to set up Kobus Darko Kit.
Yes, nice one.
There you go. What you have to do, you have to set up a Git repository, and you have to do a CDK deploy once. It will deploy your code. That anytime it does any change through Git push, it will self modify. So if you add new stages to the pipeline, if you add new things to itself, it will modify itself. So it keeps on testing itself and running through it. So there is absolutely a way to do it like that, and I was wrong. So yeah, so
nice.
That's pretty cool.
Quickly, just want to jump to Punchy Penguin's question about the automated, and I'm assuming that's about the golden images that I was speaking about. So yes, I was fully automated. 2 components to it. One is building the AMI, which is fairly straightforward. You use a Packer build job that does it every Sunday and grabs it. And then the second part, which is the interesting one, is that there was then a job that ran that updated the infrastructure. At that point, I was using Terraform, but you can definitely do it with CDK or CloudFormation as well. And what that has is that it always runs on, let's say, Monday morning for the development account, and it's got to look up for a specific AMI with a string, and that string was our golden image's name without the date suffix, which meant that it'll grab the latest one of that, then updates or creates a new launch config or launch template for the autoscaling group. Autoscaling group's configured to terminate oldest first. So what you do then is you double up capacity, which brings up the new versions of that image, make sure that it's working, and then you halve the capacity again, like whatever the settling time is, 5 or 10 minutes later, and that would then terminate the oldest ones, which we had the older MIs, and that way you could do auto upgrades without actually doing anything. Now, granted, there's a bit around it, like you have to have automated deployment for new instances where they come up with, let's say, either containers or co-deploy, etc. But that it is actually a very nice, smooth running system.
Yeah, I agree, right? I think, like, that's the thing. You can be creative with a pipeline as much as you can, right? It's just a really neat way to kind of automate your workflow. So, in a brand new definition of CI/CD pipelines, it would be, I would call it. Let me give it a second. I would definitely put the automation workflow in it. So, automation workflow that transitions code from somewhere to somewhere else. It's weird, but I wouldn't call it like it's not a software delivery thing, because yes, everything is software now, but it is also a lot of different things. So it's from building for we need to think about a proper good definition for CI/CD as we go along, because I think the CI/CD pipeline. Well, actually, let me see what Wikipedia says for CI/CD pipeline.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll be very curious to see what the official definition is, because as with many things, we touched on this earlier. If someone wants to formally declare it, what we've seen often, they're probably selling a product or a service.
So, okay, according to Wikipedia, in software engineering, CI/CD or CI/CD generally refers to combined practices of continuous integration and either continuous delivery or continuous deployment. CI/CD bridges the gaps between the development and operations activities and teams by forcing automating and building, testing, deployment of applications. It's wrong. I wouldn't say applications. Modern day DevOps practices involve continuous development, continuous testing, continuous integration, continuous deployment, and continuous monitoring of software applications through its development lifecycle. The CI/CD practice or CI/CD pipeline forms the backbone of modern day DevOps operations. Okay.
Yeah.
Something is okay. Something is can be a bit better defined. I wouldn't say that, because the focus is on application here. But again, you're deploying infrastructure also. You're deploying patches. You are deploying security policies, right? So it can be anything that, well, I think a proper definition would take me up. I cannot do it on the fly, right? But I think it's a different thing than just deploying applications. So for all the people listening to us, and that you are a DevOps engineer or a developer or something, whatever you like to call yourself. But if you're working in a modern cloud environment, a CI/CD pipeline is more than just a thing that takes your code and builds your application, right? It can be used for a lot of things. So, for example, as I was talking to this, I got a comment from somebody on my presentation saying that you cannot deploy infrastructure as code through a CI/CD pipeline.
Oh, let me show you. Hold my beer.
I'm like, yeah, here, take my presentation, take my talk right now, and just see how you can do it. Well, he said the same thing that I said in the past, like, oh, because you need another pipeline to test the pipeline. It's weird. So it is. It's not correct. So in essence, I mean, I think both of us can agree that CI/CD pipelines are just automated workflows that take a piece of code from point A to point B. Now, what that piece of code does is a lot of things, right? So software deployment, deploying artifacts, true. That's a potential better way, but it's not always just artifacts. So CI is more like creating artifacts, right? That's something I can agree on. Like continuous integration is that part where it's making an artifact. But I think this also does more things. It does testing. It also creates things, pushes to production, validates things. So
yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, writing code, compiling it, and putting it on a server is no longer the challenge. There are things that if you just write the code, it'll get to the server, no worries. It's hey, is it actually doing what it's supposed to? Is it of sufficient quality? Is it breaking something else? What's the longer term impact? So there's a whole bunch of things around that. Just slinging code to the server isn't the focus anymore. But I mean, on that comment, it now is a very nice point for me to tell you about what I did the first time I introduced infrastructure as code as part of the CI/CD pipeline.
Go.
which it was with, and this time it was already renamed, so it was Jenkins. So Jenkins has this two things. Two things that enabled me to do this. Let me put it this way, because Jenkins has a lot of things. Is that it's got the ability to, when you connect it, for example, with a GitHub organization, it can create a webhook automatically for you to keep track of any new commit that's pushed to various repos, but also it can actually keep an eye on any new repository that's created.
Okay.
So that was the interesting part, is being able to see when a repository pops up and then run that as a job. And how to run it was defined inside a Jenkins file. So what I would have in there is, inside the Jenkins file, I would have this different steps for how I want to create this app and how do I actually want to get it out there, which is run Terraform, which will then go ahead and create all the infrastructure needed. And once that was complete, then it goes on to the step, but it would actually run this in parallel. So it would do all the infrastructure planning part and get the output of what it wants to create, post that in the PR, and then it'll go in parallel run. Can I compile the code? Can I run the tests? Can I do everything? And once you get to the end, then only will the job succeed, because you've now said, I know what infrastructure is going out and my code is compilable, buildable, testable, whatever I wanted to do. And now I'm at a point where this is ready to merge, which is nice, because the first time you push that main branch, it meant that it wouldn't do the PR version, which is just the planning and displaying port. It would actually do the execution part. So it'll immediately go build things out. So you can actually build your own additional complex steps to your CI/CD pipeline, because Jenkins was just a mechanism to execute something, and then something was the Terraform definitions that actually then built up a whole bunch of extra infrastructure.
Okay, so that's interesting. So this is where I'm kind of in the betweens. Would that be a anti-pattern for any new repository? You would create a pipeline automatically, rather than having a defined repository for things. Because again, it's like, in my head, it's like creating a new table for everything you do on SQL, right? Which I did back in the time, and it was horrible. But yeah, so I'm not sure. This is, I think it's a cool feature that you can do that. Don't get me wrong. But would you do it for every repository being created?
Well, remember, every repository contains the Jenkins file. So inside the repo that I just created, I've got full control over what do I want to do when this thing goes through my CI server, which means that you've got control. And remember, that's the CI portion. And then inside the Jenkins file, I define what the rest of the entire CI and the CD bit looks like. And that's where I've got the control, version control, all of that. So I felt that was a better way of doing it. And also remember, if I've got a repo that has different behavior, then it'll have a different Jenkins file that does different things. Now, there was also a central repo for Jenkins files. I think the whole directive was Groovy scripts, where we had some custom built wrapping multiple steps into single things, because you don't want your Jenkins file to be this massive monster with many steps, because then it becomes impossible to handle. So it was a case of, there were templates that you could apply to it, saying, listen, take this template with these values, and then it did, okay, cool, I'm doing a dev, test, production deployments with these things, and all of those other extra things in between. So yes, that was definitely a component. It wasn't just like put everything in every single Jenkins files and update 50 of them when you might want to make a process change.
Right. Okay. Fair point. I mean, this is what GitHub Actions does, kind of like, right? You put this GitHub the template file that defines what GitHub Actions do, and then it actually just deploys those kind of things. So okay, pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know that AWS or AWS Code Tools don't have that feature, so you have to create a pipeline for every new thing that you want to do, every repository, every all those things. So it's not just a matter of it doing automatically, unfortunately.
But you could script it. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from using Amazon Event Bridge, grab that event as it comes from GitHub, and then execute like a Lambda function that would do that and run it for you. I mean, it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
But like you now pointed out, it's one of those like, should you? It's that classic quote of like, we spend so much time talking about can we do it that we didn't stop to think we should.
That's a good advice, folks. Anytime you're thinking how can you do a certain thing, think about it. Should you do those things? Because sometimes it's just not needed, right? So don't. While it could be cool from an engineering perspective, it's amazing that you do these things. It's wow, but do you need to do that? And I'll just kind of like I'll give a comment to Punchy Penguins. It would be like a block. He or she mentioned a blockchain technology. I had a customer once that wanted to do like a blockchain database, It was cool, amazing idea. Like this is gonna be the implementation. It's gonna be all blockchain, super secure, no trust needed within their own company. Like, okay, but why?
Yeah,
Like, is that something really you need? Like, do you not trust your internal? Like, well, we do, but then why blockchain?
yeah. There are sometimes some very interesting places and people to work with when you start talking about trust. I mean, the quick anecdote here is my most interesting experience was that I worked for a company and part of it was like it had some kind of very fancy build system and artifact. I was quite
Okay.
impressed, and having always been interested in those kind of things, I asked them, "Hey, listen, so we're not many devs. This is kind of something that other than just developing apps, I'm super interested in always. I've done these things in the past. How do I get access to that to start looking at it?" And the answer was like, no, as in no developer had access to that because I think there was some history around someone else along with the current owner of the business had built that, but they split up and they weren't happy about the split up. So this person was super paranoid about someone getting access to that, which he viewed as the secret source, and or breaking it, or I don't know what the story was. There was like it was very very awkward. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to those things, some companies are different, right? And I can say that in Amazon or in AWS, when you work for AWS, I've submitted code to AWS. There's currently a piece of code that I've written in one of the AWS services. I had an idea.
Ooh.
I had a way to kind of improve what it does. And I've spoken to the folks who own the service. I'm like, hey guys, can I implement this? And they're like, do you know how? I'm like, I'll figure it out. And it took a day. It took a single day for me to push high quality, tested, or whatever you would like to call code into AWS. And all thanks to the loveliness of CI/CD pipelines, because CI/CD pipelines actually are, if we're talking trust, a properly set up CI/CD workflow is something that enables you to trust people. Because back then I was not a developer, no, nor am I now. I've never done Java in my life.
Don't talk about that like about my first love like that.
Exactly. Never done Java in my life. I was in premium support in AWS. So I've basically learned that much Java. How can I build this thing? And I was able to submit code. But I was able to submit code because number one, somebody had a look into that code first, like code review standard. But I had to build a test. I couldn't push my code without test, right? So I had to build a proper test, write my code, and have that piece of code go through the entire pipeline. It failed the first time because I did it bad. So the next time I made a change, like within a day, that code was in production. So
Okay.
talking trust, have all the checks, all the guardrails, all the things you want within your pipeline, and let anybody try to commit code, right? Well, anybody. But yeah,
There we go. Let's see if this works quickly.
what are you
Cool.
going to do?
Oh, I've done it already. Yes.
God. Oh,
No,
goodness.
it is that. I mean, it's one of those things where what do you call it? No.
No. That's for me. You know, we cannot call this beam
Okay.
streaming because
Okay.
Java Beam,
Yeah.
and I have to.
I was about to say like no. So I still have, and also first IDE was Eclipse. So to this day, and this is now how many years has been since 16, 17, 18 years since I started coding in Eclipse. If you put Eclipse in front of me, I can probably with muscle memory still do the auto getters and setters, code generation, navigate the code and everything without even, I won't be able to tell you what the shortcuts are now. You could ask me, but
Okay.
give me the keyboard and the actual ID and I'll be able to do it. So
Okay. Well, so okay. Speaking of first IDs, I'm gonna share my. So I can say I have three first IDs.
ooh.
Four. I have a four because all of those things are separate parts of my life, and I would like to separate them specifically.
Okay.
Number one, well, if you could call it an ID, it's a Commodore 64. So you write things on the screen, right? You can do those things. Yeah. Okay. Not a fair game. Number two was edit.exe. when writing C on DOS. Doing C on DOS in high school, you just edit .exe and just that's where you do. It wasn't even that. No, it wasn't edit.exe. It was the Borland C thing. Borland had the C. I always forgot how it's called. So Borland, the software company, made a C editor, IDE, whatever you like to call it. You can run C directly from there, so you don't have to exit and do those things. Right? That was number 2. That was like the first text editor I worked in. Second was C Sharp, 2000 and C Sharp.net, 2003, I think, or 4. It's that part. That's where my first GUI text editor was, or IDE. But then, and it kind of pains me to say it's, and I know, okay, so I know it sounds elitist, but I used, and I don't like it. I used Dreamweaver for PHP. Oh my god. Like, I use it because back then I really didn't know how to do code. Like, what?
Yeah, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
nothing. But it's like, now to think about Dreamweaver as an IDE. I mean, okay, so I've used it for PHP, right? So there's much better ways to do PHP. Even mind you, that's 2008, right? There's exactly. It was state of art back then, right? It was the thing.
Yeah.
And now I consider it like horrible. Right, but it's not horrible. Yeah. But in my head, it's just like, it's bloat. But yeah.
Yeah. No. Just quickly, this comment around, is it really Eclipse? Is Jay Borland? I know what you're talking about. There was a commercial version for it called something. I can't remember exactly for Eclipse, but yes, I know what you're talking about. No, it wasn't that. This was pure open source Eclipse with a whole massive load of plugins, and then ripping out, because Eclipse itself ran in Java, so you can rip out the XML file, also the jars, and just go and edit the XML files. So
I've used one thing for Java at one point. When I was trying to learn Java, I didn't do it through Eclipse. I did it through NetBeans.
Oh yes, NetBeans. Ooh,
NetBeans, yes. NetBeans was the editor that I tried. Well, the IDE of choice that I wanted to use. I did use Visual Studio Visual Studio for a long time, for like C# and those things. No, BlueJ. What is BlueJ? Is that like a IDE? BlueJ?
I think so. Could be.
It is an IDE, it's a Java development environment. So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, learning IDE for Java,
yeah. And sometimes I'm a fan. Like some IDEs are bridging the gap or making it very easy to do things. Like I would say, like IntelliJ, JetBrains products are good for me. I like JetBrains products. They're a bit bloat for me, but okay, as an IDE, they're really good, right?
So I would disagree with that. I know that comment comes from possibly from if you add ReSharper to Visual Studio.
Okay.
Because it does make it heavier. And just quickly, just quick disclaimer: this is a joke. This isn't serious. The thing is, yes, it made your IDE a lot heavier, but every single time I touch the C# program or app, the first thing I always did is install ReSharper and then help it or use it. And yes, it's. Yeah, just it's one of those, like, I don't even feel like arguing, but always add it.
No, I mean, and this is mostly behind my state of mind. Like I'm a fan of, I use Vim, right? So I like things very clean, and even Vim, I need to build it out myself. I need to like build out my plugins myself. I cannot just take a pack of plugins from somebody else, because I'm a fan of knowing what it runs for no reason. Like there is no valid reason for that. Like it's just my thing. Sometimes exactly, but sometimes I'm very much conflicted between using something like even Visual Studio Code. Like Visual Studio Code for me is an amazing text editor. It's the best. Like, hear me out. It's the best product Microsoft has. End of story. I'm using Windows right now. Visual Studio Code is currently the best product Microsoft has. And it's amazing. It's great. It is so developer focused. It's so there to help you. It's basically made for you to make your day so much better, right? So And I'm always conflicted between using VS Code and using Vim because VS Code is so good. It's just, but it has so many things. Sometimes I get like confused, and especially using plugins that generate a lot of things for you. I'm like, "Ooh, what did it do? I don't like that. I don't like that." So Code over VS. You mean the open source version of Code? I use both. on my MacBook, I think I use the open source, the Microsoft version of Code. But on my Linux one, I use the open source version. So
Yeah.
there are differences.
Yeah, I mean, I've used both. I mean, especially if you're going to be developing with C#, then Visual Studio is really awesome. I know you pay for it. I've also heard great things about JetBrains Rider. I haven't had time to properly take it around the block because I would always use Visual Studio Code with ReSharper, which is from JetBrains, and they took that and added it effectively to the IDE the base IDE like they use for the different languages to make it C# specific. So from that perspective alone, I would definitely want to go play with it at some point as well and do it. And just quickly, IBM Rational is the commercial Eclipse version. I want to say Rational Rose. For some reason, the word Rose is just sticking in my head with like thinking back of it. But yeah, it was the IBM version of Eclipse, which was Rational, which is very expensive. I remember in the day there was no way of affording it.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, we seem to have kind of deviated from our talk about CI/CD pipelines to IDEs, but your IDE is the first step in your CI/CD pipeline. So your IDE is where everything begins. So it's very very important to talk about IDEs, and of course we can argue. We can all discuss what is the best text editor. It's Vim, but what is the best text editor out there, and what's the best IDE all day. But I think it's also good to kind of understand why use each of them, right? And I am not bashing on people who are using Dreamweaver for some reason. I'm sorry, but I'm not bashing for people who are using Visual Studio or VS Code or IntelliJ or Rider or BlueJ or NetBeans. I don't know what else.
Oh, no. This is a very valid comment from Dream Warfare. Yes, we all started in Notepad, but I just want to correct, and then we upgraded to Notepad++. I can guarantee you.
Notepad.
Oh, yeah. No. that was my IDE for at one point as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, why are IDEs... Okay, question from Mike Explain for Life. Why are IDEs the starting place for CI/CD? Okay. One of the things when it comes, let me get my soapbox and stand on it. So one of the things when it comes to software delivery or application delivery or infrastructure delivery, whatever you're building, is the ability to fail fast. Hear me out. You do not wish to spend hours, minutes making your code, then to push it to a pipeline, then having to wait half an hour and see it fail. You want your IDE to tell you, hey, buddy, this is bad. This doesn't work. You know, right? So that's why an IDE is this thing that helps you kind of build your code out and helps you point at things that are potentially bad, right? You can take my example of not doing it correctly, where I would develop my Lambda functions in Vim, and I would be super proud of it. And then all of a sudden it would fail. I would test my Lambda functions on the cloud. Now, it's a much shorter time span, but still, if I use a proper IDE, proper text editor that has Lambda support, Cloud9, VS Code, JetBrains stuff with the AWS Toolkit, I can test my Lambda functions directly in there, right? So that's the thing. It's quick feedback loops. Quick feedback loops are key.
I mean, one of the things for me that with Visual Studio that I absolutely love, that I know you can get in other IDEs, but I haven't spent the time to set it up. It was just built into the box, is that when you set up your test for a project, there's a way you can tell it to monitor the code and continuously execute those tests as time goes by, as you edit files. And literally you could have that as a sidebar. So I would have this long list, and obviously there were nodes in a tree view, so you can just, opposite of explode?
Implode?
Whatever.
Collapse
them all into just single nodes. So you just keep an eye kind of over here. If you keep seeing green, you're fine. And as soon as you start seeing red, you start digging in. Okay, cool. What did I just do that changed and broke something? Because that is a super short feedback loop that was awesome. That was like really, really good.
And it helps you. I mean, after a while you've done something, you get bored, right? You don't want to keep on committing code or clicking a bunch of times trying to see if it's work. It just doesn't. You get frustrated, you give up.
Yep.
But if you have a thing that keeps on constantly pointing at the broken thing, and then you know what to fix instead of there's nothing worse like committing a code and like, oh, let's see if this works, and like, this must work, and just see that little red box and like, oh god. It's much better than deploying to production, having a break. But this is also a point, like, there's a reason why there's a build and a test phase in CI/CD. The build phase, even in 2020, where there's not a lot of things we compile, right? I mean, of course, there are some things. There are people who use Java or whatever.
Go compiles. Don't be like that. You love Go.
Okay, I'm sorry. I like compiled programs. Don't get me wrong. I think everything should be compiled, but because portability. I need to be Max Payne. I need to hate on something, right? So it exactly. Yeah, the only good compiled program is a C compiled program. Let me put it that way.
Oh wow.
Okay, so that's why. So even for programs that you do not compile per se, you do testing on them. So, like for example, on Python, on JavaScript, even on compilable programs, on the build phase, you actually run a unit test, you run a linting, you run syntax checkers, you run those things that will help you fail fast, because you do not want to fail in deploying of your testing environment or deploying it to somewhere else, because it takes more time, right? So yeah. Yes, Java is a compiled program, and yeah, we joke like I throw shade at Java while I like compiled programs. I don't
Just a quick note on that. Yes, Java's compiled, but there's even with that, when your code runs on the actual JVM, there's a portion of it that is just-in-time compilation that happens upon execution. Yeah, there are some interesting things over there, and I know, for example, that's where it's called Graal.
Graal VM. Yeah.
Yes, they specifically optimize that to have very fast startup times by somehow building that step into the build and compile step. So yes.
Yeah, I agree. I've heard of that. I've heard of Graal VM, but I didn't know like it was actually like doing. Well, it makes sense. You need a Java virtual machine or environment to run it in. So okay, there are some things that are.
But I mean, go.
No, but I want to say regarding Java, I'm by far not competent to talk about Java, right? I'm not competent to hate Java. That's the thing. Like I'm this is all just a joke. This is me just like the same way I throw shade at PHP, right? It's not serious. I think Java is one of the most important programming languages by far. I don't think it's the most important one, and I think I've said this before. Most important programming languages right now are JavaScript or TypeScript and Python. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So
I think so. Hold on. JavaScript and Python.
Yeah.
VI, and let me guess, you're going to be on the Spaces bandwagon, right? Three strikes you out. Spaces versus tabs.
Spaces. Who uses tabs? Are you a monster? You use tabs?
Hold on. Didn't you say you like Go and you code in Go? Have you seen the stats on Go and tabs? Ooh.
That's fine. I still use Spaces. I dislike people with tabs. I dislike people who promote tabs, because tabs are very complicated and they're not equally You have Tab Cola? Does that thing exist?
We have it over here. It's sugarless and caffeineless. So
I know
every now and again
Tab was the first sugar-free Coke in the US in the 80s, but it was like canceled or something. No?
The taste of it is completely different to Coke and Coke Light or Diet Coke or whatever it's called. And the thing is, once you actually get used to this, which I am now because I don't want the sugar and I don't want the caffeine, because the caffeine needs to be undiluted in my coffee, then the normal sugary drinks are like, holy crap, this is sweet.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Okay, fair point. We've delved into the tabs versus Spaces thing. I do believe tabs are worse, just because I want it all uniform. I want everything to be a space, and that's just fine. But when I said JavaScript and Python, or JavaScript/TypeScript, I'm not confusing the two. I think TypeScript is a bit better because of its strong typiness and all the stuff. I must say that these two languages are the most important one, especially in the modern world of machine learning, the cloud, microservices, serverless. That's why I'm saying. Of course, C++, Java, Golang even are like the languages, right? But they're not the thing. You don't use C++ to build your cloud applications. You're not even using your Java
They are.
to build. There
are.
are people write things in Pascal still, right? But it's not like
But-
that. It is the main thing.
But your little wavy little it depends thingy, because if you're starting out right now and do not know any programming languages, that's the big disclaimer over here.
Yeah, of course. Like I know C and I know C++ to an extent, and anytime I want to like do a small little application for AWS, there's no SDK for C++. There is, but it's horrible, right? There is like Golang SDK exists, and that's great, right? But some of those things are kind of missing, and like I would not build a serverless application in C++, or even I may do it in Golang, but I would most likely opt to do it in Python or JavaScript. So, and again, somebody mentioned JavaScript memes are just amazing, right? JavaScript is just like, Cobus.
Yeah. So
at it.
yes, I have built many of these. So basically, CI/CD with Jenkins is go take a look at the Jenkins file and everything you can do in there. The reason that you want to do that instead of installing a million plugins, and yes, there are awesome plugins that help you with things with Jenkins, is that if you have to move your Jenkins server or reinstall it or update it, there are compatibility issues and all of that. So I prefer doing things in a way where I don't have to rely as heavily on plugins. So yeah, with Jenkins, literally, like I said, it's you define it inside the Jenkins file, and you can have multiple stages to it. You can have conditionals of when it runs. It can run in parallel. Definitely go dig into that for that. It really is good.
It is good. Like I get comments from people like, oh, you're talking about code pipeline and code services from AWS, but Jenkins is great. I'm like, oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Jenkins is amazing, right? I think Jenkins is an amazing open source tool that can help you build your CI/CD workflow amazingly, right? And a lot of people use it, and it's just great, right? There's so many options out there. Like,
yeah.
Even if I work for AWS, it's not something that you have to like, oh, you must use code pipeline, right?
Yeah. And just quickly punching Penguin. Yes, the reason I say go have a look at the docs and the samples out there is that I personally don't have any content out at the moment on Jenkins that I can remember. There might be something in my blog from 4 or 5 years ago. But yeah, Jenkins X. Oh, no. Jenkins X is not the same as Jenkins.
Jenkins X is the paid version, right? No.
No. There's the CloudBees is the company that has the paid Jenkins version, but there's a heavy consulting model with that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Jenkins X is the Kubernetes with Jenkins type scenario where you it's a case of we use it to deploy your entire CI/CD pipeline inside Kubernetes, but I believe also once that is up and running, so it runs on Kubernetes itself, but then also spins up Kubernetes environments for you in certain scenarios and components. So deploying things in like big chunks for when you do things like PR branches, it'll spin up an entire new namespace in a cluster, for example, or spin up a whole new cluster for you, etc. So there's a whole Jenkins X is a lot different than Jenkins. Yeah.
Like I've never used the Jenkins in production. I've played with Jenkins. I've set up Jenkins. Well, actually, I did use it in production. I'm lying. I did do it once. We had to use it because Windows builds were required to be run through Jenkins because it's running on a Windows server, and it was weird. But yeah, we need to compile like C#, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean that's one of the nice things. You've got the main Jenkins like controlling node, and it had lots of little worker nodes that you could do with just and run that. That runner was a Java file, so you could, or Java jar app, so you could run it on Linux, Windows, Mac OS. I've actually done Mac OS app builds with it as well.
The good thing now about, especially when it comes to .NET, a few years back you had to do .NET in Windows. Today, unless it's something very, very Windows specific, you can build .NET in Linux because there's .NET Core. Yeah, .NET Core. So you can actually compile .NET applications on Linux. So that is pretty cool. So to do CI/CD for that's what we were talking about, Uncle Johnny. Let me just first reference a few questions here. There's a thing. Dream Warfare, you've convinced me to build a CI/CD pipeline from scratch in JavaScript. Yes, but also build an entire blogging platform that you're going to deploy to through that wholly built CI/CD pipeline. Make sure to do that. Can you use Jenkins to deploy Kubernetes? I see
Yes.
no reason why not. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jenkins X has got a lot of native integrations for it, but Jenkins as a build server can run any command for you, and there are plugins for it that can use it.
Got it.
Speaking of this one about plugins, why is it good not to use a lot of plugins? So the reason for this was that, as with anything used in moderation, it tends to be fine, but if you use it to access, your life is going to become very unpleasant. And this scenario was a Jenkins node with I don't know how many plugins, but it was in the 50s or hundreds of plugins. And remember, plugins need different versions, and sometimes they start clashing. And then when a new version, because remember, Jenkins itself is also software, you need to update it, you need to patch it, all of those joyful things. And then when that started happening, some of the modules didn't work with each other anymore and didn't work well together anymore. So that was my experience. And that's why I say don't use too many plugins, because also those plugins don't run locally for the developer. So the developer experience of building the software and testing is different from the actual CI/CD experience. You want those two to be preferably as close as possible together.
Yeah. Standardized, right? So standardized is
Yes.
very important.
Yeah.
So from a question from Uncle Johnny, God, why is it so hard to do CI/CD for a Windows server? Well, I would say depending on your use cases, it's not. I mean, if your sole use for Windows is to compile .NET, that's just very possible now when it comes to Linux, because again, mentioned .NET Core, there's a way you can do .NET on Linux. You can compile .NET on Linux, but when it comes to deploying things to Windows, I would also say that that's not too bad, right? You can use. There's a lot of deployment tools out there like CodeDeploy, right? CodeDeploy can deploy on Windows. There is a proper plugin for CodeDeploy, or actually not plugin, an agent for CodeDeploy to run on Windows servers. So if you want to deploy something to, as GeoDNBB said here, you can deploy applications like to IIS, right? That's not a problem. I know IIS is weird and all that stuff, but it is possible. Mr.
Sorry,
Pink.
okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So Mr. Pink is asking where these question chats are coming from.
Yes. We are streaming to multiple locations. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry. Wait, let me go this one. Sorry.
Yeah. So we are
We are
streaming
currently-
to. Yeah, I think you're watching it on my or somebody else's. I'm not sure which
Yeah.
which Twitch you're watching on. Because 3 Twitch locations. So you're both of our Twitches. So there's
Oh.
the AWS, there's the AWS Twitch, there's Cobus, and there's me. So we stream on all 3 Twitch. So twitch.tv/AWS, it's the official one. I think the most questions are coming from there, as we have the most people viewing there. I think like 37 people. And yeah, there's the Triple Threat, and also there's our YouTube channel, because
Yes.
all of this is being recorded on a YouTube channel. So
And available for your consumption later. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So-
But just quickly look down here. We can now do look at our links. It's normally you say,
Yeah.
please hit the subscribe button, smash it, whatever those things are. But
Smash
you can see
the
all of our details here at the bottom. So you can actually get our Twitch and YouTube and all the things. The only thing not up here is our YouTube channel. But luckily, that's easy to find nowadays because we've got a name for it. Not Quivers, not Doggo, one word.
Yeah.
So let me
AWS
quickly break that.
the AWS one isn't on the bottom, but it's AWS. So we actually don't ever say that we work for AWS, because we kind of think that people know, but yeah, we work for AWS, and we are developer advocates at the AWS. So yeah, you missed the link for October 15th. So Kubus, you can maybe post it again.
Okay,
no,
cool.
not that
No
one,
worries.
but,
And I'll bring it up again. Modern Dev Day.
there we go.
Yeah.
While you are do that, I'm gonna answer the question from Punchy Penguin about possible to build a CI/CD to Azure from localhost, from your local thing. Now, I'm not familiar with Azure, right? But when it comes, if I would consider Azure to be like just a normal cloud provider like we are, especially if you're deploying to their equivalent of an EC2 instance, I see no reason why not, right? So depending on which deployment process or which things you are running in-house, to deploy to an EC2 an Azure instance. How are Azure instances called? Are like instances or virtual machines?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So if you're trying to deploy to Azure, I'm perfectly sure that you can do it from a local thing, because rarely which tool is gated in such a way like, oh, you cannot deploy. Because at the end of the day, anything in the cloud is just another virtual machine. As long as your pipeline locally can talk, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Kobus, I think you need to
Yes.
run, right?
Yes,
All
so
right.
sorry, apologies for that. I've got a clashing engagement today, so I can't stay till the full half hour past. So I need
Okay.
to run, and which means at a future date, I will tell you what I did with Jenkins Windows instances and the
Okay.
Jenkins build client,
Okay.
which was
Okay.
terrible. It
Oh.
involves admin.
Ooh.
Cool.
That's fun. That's fun.
But Docker here is going to continue a little bit more.
I'm gonna
So
continue a bit more. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you, Cobus,
cheerios,
and
and
have a nice
yeah,
weekend.
awesome. Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, now it's just Lonely Darko here. Let me see if I can maybe share some screens or something, because my big head here is not super fun. But let me try to answer your questions, and please do keep me company here so we can have this discussion going on. Cobus Darko challenge: can you use AWS services, 1, to process Twitch video streaming content to recognize certain pictures? Number 2, to process audio to text. Yes, that is quite a possibility, especially because there are built in. Oh, Wapples is using Cobus here. There are built in services, AI services such as recognition, to like process audio. Sorry, not recognition. It's called transcribe, that will process the audio we're saying to text. Now, how good it's gonna be? I have an accent. Cobus has a South African accent, so yeah. Oh, you're asking us to do it on stream? Absolutely, we can do that. Let us plan that so we can properly do it on stream, and we'll let you know on that topic as well. So for sure. And when it comes to processing Twitch stream to recognize certain pictures, I am sure that it can be done. So again, it will take some bit, but it could be fun. Like, none of us are AI ML experts, but it's a fun thing to play around with. Yeah, South Africans. And so Cobus, or actually Wapples has these. Wapples, where did you get those emojis? Not emojis, the emotes. I know that on my Twitch channel there's a Cobus emote, but I didn't see the one with the glasses. Is that something of yours, or? But yeah, if you are, I think, if you are using my channel, there should be like a Cobus emote. I'm not sure if that's like limited behind something, but I'm trying not to make it limited behind anything. But I made a single emote on. Twitch allows you to overlay glass. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. I'm a Twitch newbie, but yeah, there we go. There's a Cobus emote as well. So if I ever need to do something here, I can just do this and paste my own chat and just put Cobus. There we go. We have little Cobus here, just saying hello. So Dream Warfare. So my question is, why can't I Twitch Prime to AWS? So why is AWS not a partner of Twitch? It is. I mean, Twitch is part of Amazon, right? So we are. But what are you trying to Twitch Prime to AWS? I'm not sure. What does that mean? Or you mean like I'm using Amazon Prime on my Twitch thing, when I give subscriptions to somebody. So when I subscribe to somebody, I just do it through my Twitch Prime or Amazon Prime thing. But yeah, but not really sure. Cool. So let me have a look. What can I talk about as we go along? So we had a really nice talk about IDEs and CI/CDs and all the stuff, which is fine, right? And there's been a lot of soapbox moments where I would talk about specific things. But I think CI/CDs are very important in your software application infrastructure, whatever you're doing, delivery pipelines or life cycles, and you should definitely do it. Like my homework for everybody here, especially if you're doing application deployment or even if you're doing infrastructure deployment, let your next deployment be through a Git push. Try to do it like that, even if it's something super simple. So. Oh, there's no subscribe button on AWS Twitch. I think AWS Twitch intentionally doesn't do it because we don't want to make money from those things, right? So it's fine if you just watch us. If you want to give a subscription to somebody, give it to somebody who, give it to a small creator you're interested in, right? Find a great small creator on Twitch that does things that you are interested in and subscribe to them. So that would be my advice to you. Okay, so Uncle Johnny, I think Windows Server CI/CD is hard because it depends heavily on a graphical interface. Maybe it's my lack of experience, but I miss CLI support. I agree, but so Uncle Johnny, you can actually set up Jenkins. I mean, Jenkins on Windows does require a bunch of clicking and all those things, but I believe all of those things now, to an extent, are possible through like PowerShell, right? And I agree. It completely takes you out of like your CI/CD pipeline uh, approach. Absolutely right. Your CLI stuff, and you do everything through like your lovely SSH client. But Windows is getting better to that extent, right? So I think more of those things are getting better, right? The main question is when are we getting AWS emotes in this channel? I don't really know. So I'm able to be a moderator on the channel, but I am not able to like add those kinds of things if I recall correctly. So yeah, am I able to do emotes? No, I cannot. No. It's yeah, cool. So let me have a look. We shall get AWS service icons and emotes. Yeah, I think that would be awesome. I think that's a really fair point. So, and here's the thing, like maybe that happens. I don't really know. We have a tight integration with our Twitch guys, and we can suggest that absolutely. So that would be really cool when it comes to those things. Punching Penguin. Have you heard of the new GStreamer that CI/CD is a single element of the new GStreamer? That is, I don't know what that means. That CI/CD is a single element. Wait. GStreamer sounds something familiar. Like GStreamer. I'm sorry. So many technical terms in my head. Oh, the multimedia framework. Okay. All right. So, okay. When it comes to things like GStreamer, right? It is just a really nice way that you can kind of process media. There are other ways to do it. That's why I say, like, when it comes to CI/CD or a pipeline in general, a workflow, it's not exclusively for software delivery. You can use CI/CD pipelines actually, you can use pipelines for delivering audio, video, visuals, whatever, right? But the thing that makes it different from a CI/CD pipelines we talk and something like GStreamer is that GStreamer uses media files at one end and outputs media files at the other, right? We think of a pipeline, a CI/CD pipeline, as a thing where you input code and something else comes at the other end. So that's kind of a different thing, right? Rudix, no worries for noob questions. We like all the questions here. So API Gateway supports Lambda. What else? EC2. When it comes to API gateways, you can absolutely invoke EC2. Let's actually have a look at what exactly does it support, because to be honest, I've exclusively used the API gateway with Lambda functions, but let's have a look. AWS API GW. So you can actually set up, let me see, if we go to the documentation, let's have a look. Okay. So you can actually do any kind of HTTP API endpoint through this. So in essence, you can do Lambda functions. You can also do state machines. You can do like step functions. You can do any HTTP API endpoint that can sit on Elastic Beanstalk, EC2, even on your own Raspberry Pi sitting at home if it can reach it. So it doesn't really matter. The API gateway is not just a thing that you use to interface with a Lambda function. You can use it to interface with a lot of different things. And it's not just the interface, it's also like it can include authentication, logging, throttling, and all of those things. So that's kind of a really great way. So anything that you can access through just kind of works. And Punching Penguin, I would agree that Windows is opening up slowly, so for sure. Load balancers, yeah. So basically anything that can be an HTTP API endpoint. If you have a load balancer with a whole bunch of EC2 instances in the back, all listening on HTTP, like an API as well, you can do that as well. So again, that is perfectly fine. So Uncle Johnny, so there is no, don't worry about it, about off topic. Nothing is off topic. Stream content from an EC2 instance to Twitch. Absolutely. So there's actually even a blog post. Let me try to find it here. Dev2 Alex Casaboni. My colleague Alex, who is also a developer advocate here at AWS, he really built this really nice blog post on how can you actually stream from where is it? If I can find it. So Alex Casaboni. Basically, he made a really nice blog post on how can you stream from AWS Workspace, which is in essence an EC2 instance, how you can stream from it to Twitch. Because one of the things that we ran into when this entire COVID situation became is that we couldn't stream from our laptops. Like you try to stream from a MacBook, it dies on you. It's horrible. It overheats and it doesn't work. So we need to find a way to kind of properly stream through some platform and not kill our MacBooks. So there's a way to do it through CI/CD, not CI/CD. I'm sorry, through a Workspaces instance, so through an EC2 instance. I'm just trying to find if I can see all of his blog posts somehow. For some reason, I can't find it. There we go. It is. Okay. Let me copy the link. Let me paste it here for everybody to see. Bam. There we go. You can use VPC link and then it'll be to interface with ECS. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a comment on API gateway. Absolutely. So, again, anything that has an HTTP API listening on it and you can reach it through any means, right? As long as you can establish IP traffic with it. Again, it can be your Raspberry Pi sitting at home. It can be your mobile phone. If it has a static IP address, you can do that perfectly. Cool. Karajinsky. Hey Darko, I'm using CI/CD pipeline, but we have 17 smaller services with a lot of Lambda functions, and we're using concurrently deployment, but it takes too much time to deploy, and also we can only use 3 to 4 services in concurrently deployments. Do you have any tips how we can improve it? Let me have a look. Now, when you're deploying changes to these Lambda functions, right? When you're saying services, are you... okay, so smaller services with a bunch of Lambda functions and you're using concurrent deployments. So how are you exactly deploying to these Lambda functions? What is the process of deploying applications? Are you using it through SAM? Are you doing it through like direct CloudFormation invocation, or you're doing it through maybe even like CDK or something like that, right? So it really depends. There's a bunch of ways you can do it to make it a bit faster. Try to do like parallel executions instead of testing every Lambda function equally, right? So that is one thing you can do for sure. It's serverless deployment. So it's using the serverless it's the serverless framework deployment. I would imagine a serverless using CloudFormation, right, for that. And where's the exact slowness of those things, right? Where's the bottleneck if you can potentially see it, right? So okay, it's a serverless. Okay, so it should be using but let me read your question again. So Mechanical Turk, right? Yeah. But it takes too long to deploy. We can only 3 to 4 services in concurrent deployments. Why is the limit of 3 to 4 services in concurrent deployments? Is there like a limit on the pipeline, or I'm trying to see why isn't it possible to deploy all the things at once? I mean, deploying sometimes to Lambda functions can take a lot of time. Memory limit. Okay. Let me come back. Which CI/CD platform are you using for this? What is it? Is it Code Pipeline, or is it Code Build, or is it your own Jenkins setup? You have a huge server. Okay, so my advice here would be, and I'm biased, I work in the cloud, right? Would be to take it through a thing like Code Build, right? Or if you want to do this, try to get a thing like AWS Code. So this server itself, does it actually like build those Lambda functions, or what does the server do? Like there's a bunch of things you can kind of offload to the cloud. Like if you use like even GitLab CI, if you use AWS Code services when it comes to Code Pipeline, Code Build, and Code Deploy, those things can be abstracted to AWS and to the cloud, and not having to worry at all about the capacity of it, because you only pay for like the amount of time it executes. So like if you wanna parallelly build all of your Lambda functions at the same time, or test all these things at the same time, you can literally fan out to as many Lambda functions as you can have within like a Code Build project. So and you pay only for it running. So you don't have to pay anything for it sitting there. We're using Code Build for it. Okay, so then what the server is? Where does the server come in when you're saying about that. But yeah, let me just answer a few more questions while you get to it. Team R, Damien, is it possible to use AWS Code Build as a GitLab runner? Is there an easy, scalable way more efficient than EC2? So I'm not sure about GitLab. I'm not used GitLab CI. So if GitLab CI can invoke an arbitrary SDK call, I see no reason why not, right? Because Code Build, you can kind of spin up Code Build. You can position like an artifact in S3, and it will spin up. It can spin up Code Build, and Code Build can actually compile that piece of code for you, and then check it out somewhere else. So if there is a way for GitLab CI to do it, I'm not really sure. I would really need to check on this, but yeah. Code Build would definitely be more scalable and efficient than just an EC2 instance. So. And Punching Penguin, what is the best way to learn AWS coming from Windows? They have a lot of free material and student accounts. Does AWS offer similar? So there is a free tier when you're using AWS. So for the first 12 months, there's a lot of things on AWS that is completely free, right? Completely free. There are some things that are not, of course, but there's a free tier website where you can actually check what is free and how much. One of the things about AWS that we have an amazing training platform. So if you go to aws.training or just search AWS training, our platform offers a lot of free courses, free material, free labs. All the things you want are basically coming from us. So that's a really great way to do it. One of the things I can also offer, if depending on where you come from, if there is a user group, if there's an AWS user group in your region, that's a really great way to get started, because there's a lot of people out there who are capable of accompanying you on your AWS journey. Like if you're AWS user group, right? So if you're interested, if you're passionate about AWS and the cloud, join a group, and they can always help you with things about good talks, good presentations. Even the user groups are give out a lot of AWS credits when it comes to those things. So again, there's so many things you can do, and I think a lot of examples, even from coming to streams like ourselves, you can come and potentially learn something fun. Okay. Team R, Damien. Of course, you can trigger Code Build from a public runner, but it's not transparency way. I'm not sure. Oh, there you go. So Dream Warfare, GitLab runners on ECS clusters. Again, I'm sure that you can do it if there's a way to trigger it. And ECS is a great way to kind of scale out those things and be much faster than running it on an EC2 instance, especially if you're using Fargate. Mr. Pink 52, what is that? What is your SNAS game in the background? Thank you. It is the best SNES game, Super Mario World Yoshi's Island. Yeah, my favorite game. Played it since I was a kid, so still play it. Karajinsky. Okay, you're using code build environment. Sorry. So instead of using one big old code build environment, you can spin up multiple of them. One of the things that you can do in a code pipeline is you can actually fan it out. So instead of having a single build process, you can actually fan out multiple build processes to do these things for you. So that could be potentially a great way. Instead of having one big 15 gig, 8 vCPU code build job, you can have multiple code build jobs running in parallel to doing these things. Yeah. So GitLab runner in Docker container, I believe they have some CLI operations when you run boot. Okay. There we go. So I'm not very familiar with GitLab per se. I know a lot of people are using it, so it is possible. So do let me know if you fix that next time you join us on stream. Do let me know if this was possible. Team R, Damien, if you join us again on stream, and I hope you will. Karajinsky, and thank you very much, and do let me know if this works for you, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter or somewhere else. I'm always very happy to interact with you all, even off stream. So if I can help with something, if I can give some advice, I'm very happy to answer questions and those things. I am here for you as part of our community. And lastly, Uncle Johnny, why would somebody choose AWS instead of GCP or another cloud service? I prefer AWS, but lack in reasons to convince my boss. One of the things at AWS that we are very proud of is our customers, right? So You will not see us stand on stage and talk about how awesome service X is or how whatever is, right? We like to lead by examples. We like to show how our customers have built amazing things on AWS. So if you look at our customer case studies, you will see customers anything from Netflix to Samsung to NASA to whatever local thing to your wherever you come from is, right? So if you want to convince somebody on the reason to use AWS compared to some other cloud vendor. Now, again, I come from a very neutral background. I really think that the best cloud vendor or the best thing for you should be the thing that brings you the most value now. So, of course, I work for AWS and yeah, Bundesliga, SpaceX, all those are our customers. And I think that says it for itself. We have by far the most available services and features out there, right? And the amount of services and features has been growing like crazy. That could be good and bad, right? So the technology offering behind AWS is just so vast and so out there that I'm sure you can find something that can suit your company. Again, some other cloud vendors do things better than we do potentially, or we do something better than some others. I'm not going to get into that, but have a look at who else is running AWS. Have a look what they're doing on it, not just the name behind it. Just check out what SpaceX is doing. Check out what Bundesliga is doing with machine learning on AWS and all the wonderful thing that Bundesliga does here. So check out those things, and potentially that can be a good incentive to saying, hey, see, we can potentially do it the same way on AWS compared to something else. So that would be my thing. Okay. Oh, Mr. Pink, you're working with Bundesliga. Oh, that's very cool. I've actually was once in Cologne with Bundesliga because I am based in Germany, and I used to work as a solution architect for Bundesliga for a while. So just a very short time. So we may have even rubbed shoulders. Okay. Mystikos. Oh, I'm gonna have to wrap up the stream soon. I apologize. But let me answer a few more questions. Where do you think the future of IT is going? If you had a gamble on a specialization, why would it be AWS? So, IT is going to the cloud. Now, I'm not gonna say, hey, it's going to AWS, right? We can see that the vast percentage of the Gartner quadrant and whatnots, they're showing like AWS as being the leader in it all. But I would say that it is definitely the cloud. While there are a lot of customers that are doing things in a hybrid way. And to be honest, most customers are at one point in a hybrid way, especially during migration. I think cloud is the future because, and I've had a disagreement with somebody on this, is like your infrastructure, the thing you're running. If you can be as proud as you want in the thing you deploy at home, the thing you deploy at your data center, but your infrastructure doesn't really make you stand out anymore, right? It's not like, we have the best servers we can have. That means our product is the best. Everybody can have the best servers they can have. Everybody can have vast and potentially unlimited amounts of compute and storage and databases. The thing that makes you better is the actual software you build. So if I would wage a bet on where IT is heading, I would say number one, it is the cloud, it is serverless, and it is machine learning. So those things are going to be changing our lives. And like, take a look, for example. Take a look at machine learning, how it is impacting. I know machine learning has been overused. People put machine learning in everything, right? But I would say that it is basically a big thing now, even in non-cloud technology things. I have a graphics card that runs machine learning workloads on my games, that it can render my games in a lower resolution using less power, but making it look better because of machine learning, right? So those things are. Also, it's going to change everything. And I think, edge computing. Yeah, real Jake, absolutely. Edge computing has, that's a fair point. And I forgot to mention edge computing or IoT or things basically everywhere communicating with this big old compute blob called the cloud is very important, because you see more and more things that are talking to the cloud. Like I have a bunch of things in my room that are talking to the cloud constantly, including the lady in the tube, which I can't say her name, but all those things are basically edge computing. So throwing data at the cloud and doing something with it. Of course, machine learning comes into that plane. Yeah. Birth of Skynet, yeah. It is sound weird, right? It does sound really weird, but that's the thing. Like we have all these things thanks to those technologies, and I think like and I know there's people who are like, oh well, serverless is a fad and machine learning is a fad. You know, we can disagree on those things, but I think like machine learning has actual impact in how are we doing things. It's going to be even more. If you wanted to see how can we break Moore's law, I think besides quantum computing, whenever that comes, it's going to be machine learning, right? So we're going to use machine learning to do things in a much more smart, actually, in a more we can gonna optimize compute. And that example is like NVIDIA graphics card. So if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, the RTX ones, right? You can use DLSS. What does DLSS stand for? I don't really know. It's something dynamic. Basically, it's the thing I mentioned. It renders your game at a lower resolution. So it like I pick up a game and it renders it at like 600 by 480, right? But what it does then, the machine learning cores on the graphics card actually upscale the rendered image to something much more. So it actually looks like a 4K screen, a 4K image. It's not perfect. It's a 4K image, but rendered only with a fraction of compute requirements. So we're going to optimize compute and all the other things thanks to machine learning. Okay, and on that bombshell, is it possible to train a model with audio? Oh, absolutely. There are things people use audio with. For example, there is the generative adversarial networks, or GANs. Basically a way you can train machine learning to create music for you. So if you have a look at Deep Composer on AWS, it's a keyboard, or it can be any MIDI keyboard basically, that you can use a GAN to train a GAN, or generative adversarial network, to generate music from some music. So that's very cool. Cool. With that, thank you very much. Do not forget to register on this link here below, October 15th, which is next Thursday. There's going to be presentations online. They're going to be available afterwards. We have 12 talks across 3 tracks. Again, all available after the fact. You can check out both Cobus, who left. Let me bring back Cobus. Wait. I'll find Cobus in chat. Where is my chat thing? Wapples, yeah, there we go. Me and Cobus are both going to present something on there. So if you want to hear us talk some proper, actual prepared presentations, do make sure to join us there, and join us on Monday as well. Monday is the next stream, so early Monday morning, the same time. Cobus and I are both back in the same place with some other topics. And thank you very much for everybody for joining us here. And oh, it sent you to Amazon.com. Did Cobus paste a bad link? Wait, let me give you my link. Wait, don't go. Let me share my link, because if I share you my link, I maybe win the competition, but don't tell Cobus. 1 second, let me share my link. Oh my God, Cobus is gonna hate me. Like that. Well, bam. Register on that link. So yeah, thank you very much for it's very fun, and thank you. Like, this wouldn't be fun if you guys weren't talking with us. So thank you for the questions, thank you for the comments. Talking, if I would just be talking to myself or even just to Cobus, it wouldn't be as fun. So thank you all. We'll see you on Monday, and have a lovely weekend. It's Friday, so enjoy. And yeah, I'm gonna be ending the stream.